Hi, today we're going to talk about these Knilling geared pegs and how to install them. And right now we're going to talk about the differences and how they work, basically. So we have two types. One type has a wood head. They're a finer peg that we usually install on better cellos. So you actually have a wood head. Sometimes it's ebony, sometimes it's rosewood. This is rosewood. This part here is anodized aluminum. And this will be the part that gets threaded in and lightly glued with some CA glue into the peg box itself. Then this is like a Delron plastic that turns 4 times slower than the head. So the head will do a whole revolution. This will only do a quarter revolution. So that gives you fine tuning capabilities. You can see it turning right now. We actually have to fit these into the cello and cut them to length, polish the ends. And I have a method that I use. They come in several different sizes. That would be referring to this shaft size. Most new cellos, this 12 millimeter will work perfectly. Sometimes the peg holes are a little bigger in the cello and you'll need a 13 millimeter or a 14 millimeter. But 90% of the time, the 12 is what we use. These are actually designated as bass and treble. So you'll see there's a B on one side. This will be right-handed threads, meaning when you turn clockwise, they'll thread inwards. So these turn inwards in the direction that the string loosens on the treble side. In order for it to turn in the direction that the string would be loosened, these would have to be left-handed threads, which would be counterclockwise, and you're threading it in. We have to ream these holes probably slightly, and we'll proceed with how far I ream it and how I cut it and how I finish it, and then the final, the gluing in. Okay, we are going to install in this rental cello the plastic head Knillings, and this is a 3/4 cello, and I think the full-size peg heads are fine proportionately, so I use the full-size Knilling pegs for full-size 7/8 and 3/4. And then the ones that they call 3/4 pegs, I use them on 1/2 and 1/4 cellos. So that's why I'm using this size. It just looks better, in my opinion. Now sometimes you might run into peg heads. They don't have a B or T designation. Instead, the bass side has a brown shaft here, and the treble side has a black shaft. If you're confused, just see if they put your thumbnail in there and see if they're tightening righty-tighty or lefty-tighty to determine whether you have right-handed threads or left-handed threads. Right-handed threads, bass side; left-handed threads, treble side. Okay, so we are going to remove the wood pegs. I'm going to leave one tight just so I can leave it kind of set up. And first thing I'll do is look for my bass. And I'm going to see how much reaming we need to do. Since this is a smaller size cello, we're going to have to ream it a bit to get to 12. Here's a cello peg reamer, and it's the same taper as these pegs. Put a bass here, put a bass here, move the trebles out of the way so I don't get confused. I've actually made a mark up here on my reamer because I've done this so many times. I know that I'm going to go pretty close to that mark before I'm going to get these fit. So there's quite a bit to ream on this little cello, and that's kind of normal for fractionals. Usually a full-size cello, it's much closer to 12 from the get-go. You can see how fast it's moving, and some maples are softer than others. Some cut really fast like this one, and others are old or harder and might a little slower, or your reamer might be a little dull. So now I'm at my 12 mark right there. See that? I'll show you again. That's about my 12 mark. So now I'm going to do a dry run and check this. So now I'm threading the shaft in. And that's about as far as it goes, so I have a little bit more reaming to do. I'm going to leave it just with a couple threads out, so in case I cut this too short, I can ream it just a slight bit more and bring that proud. Okay, so now I have it fit pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and make a mark with some pencil so I know where to cut it. I'm going to unthread it, and then I'm going to saw this off with my hacksaw. And now it's kind of an angle and all goofy, so I have to fix that. Using a coarse paper, I think it's about 120. Sort of squaring it off. And then I'm going to start rolling it to give it a slight domed look. Looks cleaner than just being blunt. Make sure there's no saw marks. So now I've got a little bit of a dome. If it's still at an angle, I correct that. And before I go any further with my sanding, I am going to take it down to about 600 grit. But before I go do that, I'm going to make sure it's the right length, and I'm going to do a quick dry fit and see how far it protrudes from the peg box when I tighten this up. I just want it barely crowning, so I like the way that looks. And I'm going to go with it. So now I'm going to go ahead and go through the different grits. I'm going to get, this is a nice 220. I'm going to do the end first. Check it. Make sure there's no deep gouges from the saw. If there is, then I go back to the rough paper, take them out, and then come back to the finer paper. So I'm rolling it around to create the dome. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to try to find some 320. This cork makes a nice backing. Gives a little bit, but not too much that the paper tears. And then I'm going to go with, you can see it's getting a little bit finer. I'm going to go with some 400. And finally, some 600. Better. A little friction. Sometimes I have a really fine paper and I can create some friction. This is 8,000. And that really will shine it up. A little heat. Okay. That looks pretty good. So there you have it. Before I glue this one in, I'm going to go ahead and do the treble side. I could glue that in, but I'm going to choose to do 2 of them. Same thing. This one cuts really fast, soft maple, sharp. I have a sharp ruler too. And take it down on my mark. And I'm going to make sure that says T on there. So now remember, this doesn't turn in clockwise, it turns counter. And I can see this peg, even though I took it to the mark, went in much further. So they're not all exactly the same. So the other one, remember, I had to ream it a little more. This one I didn't. So that's right. It's right there. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a mark. I mark the top side because it's shorter. And then when I'm doing righty, what would normally be righty-tighty, but you have to go remember which way it loosens it. The way you would naturally tighten is the way it loosens on the treble side. Okay, so we've got these pegs fit. I've already glued this one in. Super glue comes in different speeds of drying. So if you got one that's fast dry, I wouldn't go too crazy. I do this anyway regardless. I just put a little bit of glue on the last threads. That's more than enough, and then if you ever need to remove it, using a little super glue remover from the outside or heating this up with a solder gun will help break that bond. But if you put a whole lot of glue on there, it'll be very difficult to take out if you ever needed to for whatever reason. We would take them out usually for doing a postured peg or something like that. So I'm threading it in. I got the glue in there. I'm threading it in. And on the other side, it's just crowning. Looks nice. And so since I'm pushing in to thread this, I want to now try to release the head. And this head, when you pull it out, becomes less friction. So I'm going to keep turning it clockwise, like the way it goes in. Now I've got the head loose. And that's how I take strings on and put them off. Take them off, put them on. And then you just sort of reseat the friction how you would want it for tuning. So this other one is already cured. So I'm going to go ahead and put a string on this side. So remember the treble side threaded in opposite. They always thread in the direction that you would loosen the string. So the string pulling on the peg is kind of encouraging it to stay put. So I'm going to start on this side, cross over. This is a little cello. And because I have this head loose, I can make it loose and easier to turn. It has less friction, so it probably wouldn't stay in tune if I left it like that. Popped out of the tailpiece here. Yeah. Just like any peg, only you're turning a lot more. Now you can set your friction. Seems fine right now. That's it. So if you have any questions, you can always feel free to email me, linda@lindawest.com, and let me know if there's any other videos you'd like to see. All right, have a great one.